Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Accuracy in America. I am your host, Don Irvine, joined by my co-host, Brian McNichol.
Good morning, everybody. I got to tell a story now about the list. Okay, so we don't have the list, right? Because that was last administration. So I'm on the X this week, and someone says we never called y'all names, and I'm like, remember deplorables and despicables, and just reeled off the whole list. And like other people were like, yeah, like it turns out there were even more. We didn't even have them all. So yeah, it's pretty funny.
Oh yeah. Look, I am sure we only captured a small number of them overall. And we weren't going to have like a 5-minute intro of reading everything that was out there. We picked off some of the better ones that seemed to have kind of kept getting repeated over and over and over on almost a daily basis. So I think our list was a nice little shorthand list of things just to show the liberals, just to show others exactly what they are. And going back to Michelle Obama. When they go low, we go high. Well, look at the list, lady.
Yeah. If that was ever true.
Right. I mean, the minute she uttered that, it was already a lie.
Right.
I mean, they were trying to paint this picture of the liberals or Democrats were always going to be above the fray. We weren't going to be mean and nasty and everything like this, and yet
far above the fray, they don't really care about the country. But that's
right. Right. Yeah. And the thing is that if when you roll back, if you go back through whatever, whether or not it's things like the New York Times, the Washington Post, or you look at MSNBC or CNN or whatever, or the major networks, there's those countless examples of them. They've been going low, and one of my pet peeves, which I have gone on for years and years, on this show, has just been their playing of the race card. Right? To me, that's low. That's when they go low.
They do it constantly.
Right.
And we don't. It's another thing. You go on X and the number of times someone is called a racist or whatever, or all white people do this and that and the other, all like immutable characteristics dictate your behavior type of garbage. It's the left. It's not the right. And it's but the other day it's like somebody I've gotten 2 huge tweets out of this. Someone will say, you'll see these stats. You see these posts where they say, my family goes broke. I'm not going to help them. My family needs me. I'm going to tell them, heck no, because they voted for Trump. I'm turning them off. I don't care if they die. I don't care if they starve. I don't care if they whatever. And I put up there, you see this from the left, but you don't see it from the right. And it's like, it sets off a Twitter bomb every time. Because you guys are more hateful than us, and it's like, the responses prove the point. They're much more hateful because them about you think about it, like we've talked about this before. We think they're dumb. They think we're evil, right? In general, we just think the stuff they say is dumb. It won't work. It doesn't work like that. They think it's evil. They think we're evil, right? So, they're arguing against people doing evil to them. It's a different argument.
Yeah, and for anybody out there who would who would say, well, look, you're 2 white guys on this show, and so racism, it's a black and white issue. But I want to point out that my mother was Japanese. I'm married to a Korean. There has been there have been plenty of episodes of racism against those cultures. And so I've seen it. I know about it. So don't tell me that I don't understand this issue. But the Democrats always they love to play the race card. They think they've got the advantage on it. Republicans have got to do they don't really necessarily do a really good job about combating that. They could do a better job, a far better job of fighting back against that image that they've been kind of stuck with in a lot of cases. But
it's kind of taking care of itself, right? They're so blatantly over the line racist now. kill all the white people, all that kind of stuff. I mean, you can't tell. I mean, they can't deny it anymore. I think that's one of the things that has kind of turned things for Trump is that, like, he's getting these black men. He's up to like 49%, right? Hispanic men. He won in the 2024 election. Is that people realize, Trump is no more racist than anybody else in America. Right? The idea that he's some Klansman is nonsense.
Yeah, and I think there's truth to that. That time, things have changed in terms of that, and the racism of the 1960s and 70s and 80s or whatever. It's very different. I think I think it's much harder. Even the Democrats will keep throwing that out there. I think it's harder for them to prove it and for the message to stick, because as you're talking about, because Trump has attracted so many people from these other minority groups to his side, it doesn't resonate like it used to. Right. It used to be kind of a knee-jerk reaction. Now, now you're saying, like, wait a minute, but we've got all these people now that have voted for Trump or support Trump. So you're saying all these Latinos or all these black people or whatever and other groups, are you saying that they're now racist, as well?
They say that they've been conned.
Yeah.
They say that everybody voted for Trump. We all got conned. He's going to rip us off. It's been 9 years. When is he going to start ripping us off? And it's like the DOGE, right? They're up there looking at the money. They're going to steal our money. It's like, really, that would be the most easily caught crime ever, right? That would be like hitting a cop. It would be that directly stupid a crime.
Yeah, we know where they are and what they're doing. I mean,
everybody's watching. Everybody's watching. So, they're not taking a dime out of those things.
Yeah, there's no secret to that. All right, we kind of went that way. I do want to just have a brief discussion of the weather because I like to do that every once in a while. So, here we were preparing for a storm, and you look at the map a couple days before or whatever, and where I live, it could have been anywhere. It was on it was either the 3.5 or the 4.8, inch line, and I'm thinking like, let's see what happens, and then the storm veered away, and so I assume you didn't get much of anything either. I saw some snow flurries yesterday. Other parts of the country have been battered. It's cold.
It's cold. I mean, I guess Youngkin came out in Richmond last night and said, get where you want to be by midnight tonight and be able to stay there 2 days because you're going to get buried. I'm like, huh? What?
I think parts of Virginia did get hit though, right?
Yeah, like Virginia Beach, the biggest storm in 20 years or something.
Yeah. So, that's the interesting thing about geography. I just, when I was at this church event when we left, there was, it was flurrying, but as we got on 495 to head back home into 270, we basically didn't see anything. Right.
Right.
And so, we just didn't. So it depends on where you are and what the path is and everything like that. My position, I am done with snow. I don't like the snow. I may have a snow blower, but the less I use it, the better. The less I have to scrape ice off of my car at times, the better. So, it's like, I'm an old guy now. I don't need all this good stuff.
Right.
I don't have children in the house that are looking for a snow day. Let's have some. I'm okay. I live here partially because we also have the Four Seasons, and that's fine. I'm fine with the Four Seasons. I'm kind of like the Four Seasons minus snow and ice. I'm even happier.
Then a little for a short time, a day or so takes. You sit home, you cook, you have fun.
Yeah.
But it's been a hassle here, especially that coupled with the cold, because it's been a really cold winter here too, for a long time now. I mean, it snowed here like the 3rd or 4th of January. None of it melted for a month, right? And then it sort of melted, and then we got another one, and now it's still melting. There's not a lot of melting going on today because it's in the low 20s.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. So I guess the weather will get better. I mean, I'll be out of town next week, and with my luck, while I'm out of town, it'll be warmer here than where I'll be.
We're supposed to be in the mid 50s at some point next week.
Yeah, well, I see, and I hate, and I basically, one of the things I hate is traveling at a time of the year where you leave a cold climate and go to a warmer climate, right? Because
I like that one.
well, I like the fact that I'm going to a warmer climate. The problem is that if I'm leaving something that's really cold, what do I wear when I depart?
Right.
Like the heavy jacket that I won't need when I get there. You're like,
That's right.
if I go from here to Arizona, I'm like, it's going to be 60 or 70 degrees at this time of the year, or whatever it is. It's like, well, I don't need the big heavy coat, and so that kind of, I don't like that. So,
but the medium one you might, because like it gets cold there at night.
Right. It cools off at night, and so you need something at night. Don't think about Arizona being like this desert climate 24/7, because it is not.
It is not.
It is not at all. But I'm like, oh yeah, Utah. And the weather there is slightly variable. I mean, it's still cold. I mean, Utah will get snow into June at times, depending upon what's going on there. So
Salt Lake City is the coldest city in the NBA that has an NBA team.
Yeah.
There
you go. Maybe not as easy to attract people to play there unless they're getting paid the cheddar there, because it's just,
that's right.
It's cold. Yeah, it gets, and we've had, as you alluded to, I mean, it has been cold, and it has been colder than it has been in years for an extended period of time. We've had, overall lately it's been relatively mild. I mean, we've had 60, 70 degree days quite often over the last few years, and we haven't had quite as many of those. We've had a lot of 20 degree weather or below. We've had some single digit weather. Like, it's bone chilling cold. I noticed that people on Nextdoor, and I guess some people on Facebook too, in the area here, were complaining about their utility bills. And I'm assuming that they were complaining because they were running electric heat. They're talking about bills that were basically tripling from the 200s to the 600s, some even to the 800s and things like that. And they're just, so that, they take to a public forum in essence to say what's going on there, because the first, anytime something goes up like that, we didn't do anything different.
Look at there.
Yeah. We didn't.
That's the other thing. It's like people don't think it gets cold. Somebody told me that I didn't realize it ever got cold in Louisiana. It's like it's very cold in Louisiana. It is right now.
Yeah. I mean, that's the thing. If you look at a national weather map, you can look at Baton Rouge and Shreveport and things like this. It's like it's a little cold over there.
Yeah.
And if the wind chill is always also the extra kicker, because air temperature is one thing, but if you've got a 20 or 30 mile per hour gust of wind, you're going to be cold. I mean, that's the one thing I really hate about the weather here sometimes, is that you go out and I can read my I can read the temperature on my watch. I mean, it shows up and it says it's 22 out right now, but if the wind was gusting and blowing, it could feel like 12 or 10.
5 or 10. Yeah.
You never know, depending upon how big the wind gusts are. So then that's really bone chilling cold, and I don't want to go anywhere and really do much of anything. So but I don't know. I mean, I think part of the thing there too, I think, is with these utility bills, then kind of this knee-jerk reaction by these people, particularly here in Montgomery County, is just that they're blaming the utility company. They're price gouging, they're jacking up our rates. It's like, if you're on electric heat, I was on electric heat for the first almost 20 years of my marriage, because we had a heat pump, and you have to, in order to get relatively comfortable, that heat pump was just not very good. I know heat pumps have improved, but I think that's a culprit in a lot of cases. When it gets really cold, when you have a lot of cold air, they're not designed to operate in extreme cold weather, and so this creates a problem where you crank up the heat a little bit, and then you try to crank up. You're trying to get some more heat in the house, and the next thing you know, you've got a very large bill. So hopefully temperatures will moderate, because there's poor people that have been sucked. But he's like, there's not much they can do. They can, maybe at best they can work out a payment plan if they're strapped, but
Yeah.
it's not price gouging. And they'll see their bills come down once the weather moderates, and gets back to a little more even keel with all of that. Yeah, wind chill of 6. I don't that.
Yeah.
So
no bueno.
Yeah, no way. So on the foreign international front, we couple of things. I guess one thing, I didn't put it down here, but I did want to just throw it out there because Hamas, they released some bodies, and one of the sad things there with this family with the mother and the 2 very young children, their bodies were returned to Israel and everything. It's like, to me, boy, that really, if there isn't a more tugging at the heartstrings type of thing like that, and to talk about the brutality of what Hamas is and does, is that you actually took these people hostage and you kill them, or you let them die in captivity.
Starved them to death.
This is horrible.
And please feel sorry for you and get out of your country and let you go back to Gaza and start all this crap again. Like, no. You had your chance. You messed around, and you are now finding out, and you're going to keep finding out, and you should keep finding out.
So this is what always gets me, and I think we've had this before. It's just that you have a case like this. Is that, how does anybody anywhere from the moderate to the liberal side who has been pushing the pro-Palestinian position, the pro-Hamas position, how do you reconcile your support of what happened there, when you see this? I mean, how can you support, this whole thing when you see it? I mean, Israel didn't do that,
Right.
but Hamas did. I mean, what's the justification? How do you reconcile that?
So, one thing is, like, they're all over Trump now for saying that Ukraine started the war. Well, Ukraine had some off ramps to stay out of the war that it did not take. So Ukraine did not fire the first shot, but there's not zero validity to what Trump said, right? Well, this is kind of like that. This is different from that, though, because you think about Palestinians. There's no pretext, right? They're bombing Israel. Israel's defending their thing. They say we're going for the big kill, and they do October 7th. And then Israel says we've had enough. I mean, that's the progression of this, right? So now, I think what Trump is doing is he's making sure that wherever Hamas alights, right? It's not Gaza, and they're not in charge of Gaza, and Gaza is not the people who want to shoot rockets at Israel every day. It's going to be different people. Like, didn't have to be this way, but you guys wanted to mess around, and now you can go find your way somewhere else.
Yeah,
you're not sitting right outside of Israel making trouble anymore. It's over.
Yeah, well, and though they will continue to maintain the upper hand to a degree as long as they have hostages or hostage bodies that Israel wants back. They're going to try to use that leverage as long as they can. And that's why we kind of see these dribs and drabs. But the stories, and you see the pictures of these hostages, even the ones coming out alive, of the shape that they're in.
They're starved. They're made to lay down in a tunnel for days and days on end, fed rarely, usually like rotten food, share one rotten pita,
Yeah.
I mean, they were insanely cruel to these people. They did not treat them well at all because it was driven by racial hatred. So what these people who support Palestinians are saying is that their expression of racial hatred, and that's all it is legitimate. It's okay to attack another country because of racial hatred for the people who live in that country. That is what the left is defending.
Yeah, and I was reading the journal story about some of the hostages that have been released, and I think one of the women, I think she developed epilepsy as a result of her captivity, just because of the conditions and everything else. And the journal was, the basic gist of their article really was just that this is a long road for these hostages to try to get back to any sense of normalcy.
Yeah,
I mean,
absolutely.
how do you rebuild your life? And they even talked about some young school children, some young kids in school who frequently, who are held hostages, who frequently cannot finish the school day because they just, their images of what happened to them and images of seeing dead bodies and all these other kinds of things, they're still scarred by that. And these are young elementary age school children. They have got this. This is going to be something that is going to be very hard for them to overcome as a result of it. And it's just that extreme harsh treatment that the Palestinians, the Hamas, laid upon them that have created this, and which is a very, very unfortunate situation. Uh, but I get, like I said, and, Israel needs to get everybody back, and then maybe they can take another step. I mean, while they're in a fragile peace agreement, but it'll be interesting to see how this continues to develop and how long this holds up. You mentioned Zelensky, and Trump is always Trump, and I think that's an interesting point about the off-ramps. I mean, Trump was not wholly accurate, but this is Trump is not necessarily always wholly accurate anyway. He throws up a lot of stuff, and it's like, I think to me it's clear that the tanks came from Russia, and it wasn't Ukraine that started the whole thing. But I think too that you have the U.S. and Trump had made this clear, I think, well before, about his feelings towards what was going to happen in Ukraine. He wanted to end this thing, and he was not in favor of us continuing to pour money there, which that side of the Republican Party, that has been gaining steam over time, right?
Right.
I think we really had initially when this war broke out, when and all these things happened, which has been almost 3 years now.
Right.
That I think
3 years. What, Saturday?
Yeah, I think that's right. Yeah, so it's just a few days away, and you have the situation where America just is saying, how long does this have to go on? How much money does this will this take to end this?
Well, the other play is like these guys are all, and the internet's going nuts. The Democrats are, they sold us out. He's Putin's stooge. He's Putin's poodle. All this stuff. It's like, okay, the peace deal will have to be reached with Putin, right? And Zelensky, sadly, he's in a situation where it's going to get decided over your head, and there's not much you can do about it because you couldn't defend yourself. We gave you the stuff, right? I mean, you did a good job with what you had, but we don't come to your rescue. You don't survive, right? So you're here because of us. But Putin has, what is the alternative? What are these people who think Trump was so wrong about all this? What do you propose? Keep doing what we're doing. It's not making any progress. They're losing ground, right? There's the lines are finally starting to move again for the first time in almost 2 years, and they're moving in favor of Russia. So if you're going to go in there, you're going to have to reverse Russia's gains, drive them out of the country, keep them, set it up where they can't come back in, and rebuild Ukraine. Okay. And get, it's not get Russia to go along with this, because they're not going to go along with this. You're going to have to force them to do it. Okay. So what is the plan for forcing Russia to leave all of Ukraine, all of, was it 2008 or whenever Georgia, Crimea was, 2009, I guess it was. What's your plan to keep that from happening? How are you going to do it? Are we going to nuke them? Because they might nuke us, right? You go after their war machines, they may just say, let's throw a nuke and make this end, right? Let's turn over the whole thing. So, what is the plan? What are the people who don't want to do what Trump is talking about? What do they want to do? What do they have that will work? And why haven't you come out with it before? Because, Trump's plan resulted from no one else having a plan.
Yeah, I mean, I think part of the problem here for Zelensky is that what does he bring to the table? I mean, where does it, what strength does he really have? I mean, his country has been pounded. You know, he's vastly outnumbered. Russia will just continues to throw up people. They've added the North Koreans into the mix and everything like that. So they're going to be in it for the long haul. I mean, Russia, and then before Soviet Union, has a long track record of just sticking it out. They're not. They
Yeah,
don't
digging in and waiting for you to give up.
Yeah, they don't really go anywhere for a long period of time, and so they'll be satisfied to wait this out. Now it didn't. This has gone on basically 3 years longer than Putin probably thought it was. He thought he had a quick one, and this has turned out to be a longer slog. But overall, he's gained territory, and how does Zelensky tell Putin at a bargaining table, we want that back or part of that back, or we negotiate some deal where you basically say, yeah, I want some of those territories back. What does he have to offer?
Right.
In that sense, I just don't. I don't. That's the problem for him because
Right.
I
There's
mean,
nothing he can do.
yeah, I mean, look, I mean, if he had NATO troops on the ground fighting back and they were pushing back against Russia, I think that's one thing. I mean, then Russia's might rethink about, well, maybe we'll cede some territory back to Ukraine, but we still want this, and
Right.
and then they'll come to some kind of agreement. But I think
But
if
the good point there, though, is like one of the things about this is Putin has assessed correctly that the Europeans don't really have a lot of commitment to this. Right? They talk a good game, but they're not really wanting to put any money and troops into it. Like
Yeah,
we're putting the money and troops in.
they put some money, but NATO has absolutely refused to put any troops on the ground, and so that hamstrings Ukraine. And there are things within the NATO alliance that said about troop deployment, and Ukraine is not a NATO ally country, so you have all these things that go on. They don't want to set any precedents about doing that, but yeah, if you're Putin, I don't want to see the U.S. sell out Ukraine and cave to Putin, on a basic, surface. On the other hand, I think you have to, if you're pragmatic about it, you have to say Putin, is holding most of the cards on this, and so he can stick it out. He can continue to find more people, and it's like so this he will sit this out another year and wait another year and see where it goes, and he may gain more territory. I mean, how much result? Ukraine does not. It's a small country. It was a small country to begin with. They've lost a lot of people. Their country they've suffered a lot of physical damage. They've been shelled, all over the place, and so it's hard for them. A lot of their people have fled to other countries, so it's really tough for them. They're hanging on, but it hasn't been easy. So how much more can Zelensky and the Ukrainian people hang on? I don't know. I think even there probably are Ukrainians that would like to see this end sooner rather than later, even if it means ceding some territory to Russia, as much as that is just leaves a bad taste in the mouth, so they can get this over with and start to rebuild what's left of Ukraine. It doesn't. But if you're like Finland or somebody like that, do you get a little bit worried? It's like, okay, all right, trying to what will Russia do now? I mean, they had some success with Ukraine. Where else are they going to go? It looked like they wanted to rebuild the old Soviet Union by recapturing some of some of the other countries, and they who knows now. I don't think Putin's going to do that under Trump. I think this whole thing was directly a result of the change in administration. There was an opportunity there when Trump left and Biden took over that I think Putin guessed correctly that the Biden administration had no plan to stop them and to get this ended before it really got going.
Right. Didn't really even understand the nature of the conflict.
So we wind up with this, this untenable situation in a lot of cases. So yeah. So the liberals, they're going crazy because they're accusing, I think, as you said, they're accusing Trump of just being misinformed, using kind of Russian disinformation for the things he's saying, um, pushing Putin's ring, and all these things. But I mean, realistically, what else? What are the other outcomes except for a war that continues to go on? Um,
Right.
and I just don't
That's the
know. I don't
problem.
know
So
the
there's
answer.
really not another way to do it. And I mean, we when all this started, we were like, hey, why aren't we jumping in to defend Ukraine? You can't let Russia take over countries and whatnot, right?
Right.
And now we're not there anymore. We're at, it's got to end. Ukraine didn't do what it needed to do. You can't really move the pieces much anymore the way this is. It's kind of a stop action. So I think the thing is to, figure out a way to make it in. I think Trump is going to be pretty good at getting Ukraine something of value that it can take away, faith saving or whatever. And I think he's dead set on getting those minerals under U.S. control, which I don't think people, again, China has 70% of those rare earths, right? Minerals and metals. We have 3%. Greenland has 11%. That's why we're interested in Greenland, and Ukraine has a good cache of stuff. So, it's to Trump, it's like there's something that we can get out of it that would be helpful to us, right? As opposed to just, throwing money down the drain, because that's what we're doing now.
Yeah. I mean, I still have the Ukrainian flag behind behind my cutouts here of Reagan and Trump and everything like that. But there was a point. I mean, when we saw Republicans in Congress, starting to complain about the amount of money that we were sending over there because it wouldn't see progress. I mean, that's part of the thing is that if you're going to fund these things, you do want to see some progress. We gave them money, we gave them some material.
$350 billion.
Yeah, we've forked out a decent slug of money, but it's just really unfortunately gone backwards for Ukraine, by and all of this, and what the other countries have thrown in has just it's been there to kind of stanch the bleeding a little bit, but it hasn't prevented it. And if Zelensky can come to grips with the fact that he's probably going to have a smaller country, then they can do this. And if there's anybody that's going to negotiate any kind of a deal, it's going to be the Trump administration. I think they're much more, and they have their relationship. I mean, Trump's relationship with Putin, is one that'll help maybe move this along and everything like that. In some ways, it's an anathema to me, but I don't think anybody wants. We don't want to spend any more money on this if we don't have to, and we don't want more people to die, and just I think
identify another way out.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
I'm fine. Somebody comes up with some other way. Let's do that one. But right now, this is the way. This is the only one that's out there trying to actually address a problem.
Yeah, and please, Chuck Schumer, as you're whining and complaining about all of this, what was the Democrats' plan? I mean,
right.
You've had almost 3 years from the time it started to do something about this, and you got nothing. You didn't make any progress. So it's like, don't complain right now about the administration, and what they're doing now, because at least it seems there's movement. Whereas with your people, with Biden's people, there nothing was going on. Ukraine did not,
nothing was moving,
going on at all for them. So
just keep writing checks forever.
Right. It was just continue the way that their plan was. We'll just keep giving them more money, and then hopefully that was going to solve the issue, because I guess they felt they had the American people behind them, and people would say, how can we not help these poor Ukrainian people? But there is a point in time when even the average American says, no. I mean, it's like, we need to take care of our own people too. We can't take care of everybody else first. We need us. It's U.S. first. So Zelensky, the EU, they're all a little bit like, why aren't we involved in this? But really, I mean, what would they do?
Yeah. Why aren't you involved in it? It's right next to you. You're the one worried about, Russia finishes with them, they come after us. Well, then, rise up, right? Here's your chance. But, they want to blame us. They want us to do it.
Yeah. And it's, this is once again, just, kind of Trump and a very different style of diplomacy. We talked about it when he was in office the first time, and we saw what happened under Biden, and Trump has, taken the bull by the horns and really tried to go in there and say, okay, like, he wants to extinguish these things and get these distractions off the agenda, off the map, so he can focus more on other policies and things that he really wants to get done. So we have this budget plan. We've got a House budget plan. We've got a Senate plan. They're a little different in terms of how they want to, what they want to go and get passed first. Apparently, the president has said that he's endorsing the House plan because the House plan is basic. I guess is that the one beautiful bill with the tax cuts?
Yeah.
And the Senate plan would take up the tax cuts later.
No, yeah, do the House. Then you're not getting 60 votes to call it off the calendar to reduce taxes. And you don't get another chance at reconciliation until next year. And it's probably time to get the tax cuts now.
Yeah, so they've got budget, they got this reconciliation, so they have a limited amount of time to do this. Or is that part of the thing?
There's a limited amount of time, and you can get anything that you can get into reconciliation, which is it's revenue and spending basically. Then you can you only need 51 votes, or 50 actually.
Yeah,
so we have the VP.
So can the Republicans? I mean, can they legitimately identify enough, in cuts that would offset these, that would offset the tax cuts and their effect on it? At this point,
the Trump tax cuts in the first administration produced the 3 greatest years of revenue for the U.S. in the history of governments. I mean, we made enormous amounts of money off the tax cuts because people repatriated billions and billions of dollars and spent because you had lower depreciation, you had lower corporate rates, all that stuff. The companies were spending and hiring and buying equipment and all this kind of stuff and pumping up the economy. And as a result of the tax breaks, and people have more to spend because they have that additional money. And and it wasn't a matter of covering the cost. They more than covered the cost.
Yeah, I just have this. I mean, my thing too is just that, I'm hoping that Elon, the president is able to really, withstand all the legal challenges, everything that's going on there, because we have a budget that's nearly $7 trillion. It's like, what are we doing spending $7 trillion? What are we doing with 2.3 to 2.4, million federal workers?
Right.
Why do we need, to do all of this?
Right.
And, I mean, I think they're waking up the American public with this, but but this also, is part of the budget battle of like, what are they going to do? If Congress goes in and they start shrinking the size of government through this, then it makes shrinking the size of government a lot easier, right?
Right. It also makes it a lot harder to unwind,
right,
if Congress does it.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's because Congress has got the spending authority, just don't spend as much money. Let's have a smaller government and all.
Right. One of the things that, I mean, even the Democrats have taken some notice of this is that the cuts are popular. People read about these stories about, Elon Musk found $260 million of waste here and 50,000 waste there, whatever. People like that. I mean, it's highly popular. Like, because we assume there's a lot of largesse. There's a lot of, slosh in our budget, and he's proving it and he's removing it. And I think the longer that goes on, the harder that's going to be to oppose, because the American people like it. You even see in a few of them like, well, I'm not against cutting a wasteful spending. Okay. You were last week. That's okay. We're church. We let all the converts in. But So I think that's where it's headed. It's like it's going to be harder to be against this because it's working.
Yeah, I mean, once again, we have a nearly $7 trillion budget. There is no way that we don't have wasteful spending in there because
That's right.
you cannot have a budget that big. I mean, there are there are corporations that have much smaller budgets, right? They operate on much smaller budgets, and they still have wasteful spending within their with their budgets. It's sometimes it's hard to find. They get buried among different things like this, and the vastness of the federal government makes it hard to track and find every little thing. And and we just have this, I don't know, we have this goofy system, at least I'll call it goofy, of where the fiscal year ends on September 30th, and then agencies are looking, by September 1, they're like, okay, we still have all this money left over. Where can we spend it? There is no notion there of we can return this to the Treasury, in essence, and then and then run a more efficient agency or operation. It's like, where do we spend the money? Because if we don't spend the money, we won't get that. The next time around, they'll give us less money, and no one ever wants to do. No one wants to run an agency that is, in essence, shrinking. But they're not thinking about. They're not thinking about the U.S. taxpayer. They're not thinking about the greater good of the government, of the U.S. They're just thinking about themselves and protecting all their little programs and everything like this. And we've just developed this system, which is
people are like, they're not doing it right. It needs to be done with auditors and accountants. And I'm like, auditors, accountants have been trying to do this for a long time, and they haven't made any progress. These guys actually made some progress. They're actually getting at the waste. That's the thing. Is like it's part of the thing is no one's done this right ever. Really, what they're doing ever has never been done. Okay, but the idea even of going through and like cleaning up the government, right? Cleaning out wasteful spending. Looking at things whose usefulness is expired for whatever reason, right? No one's done that in a long, long time. So there's a lot of stuff that's just rot, just institutional rot. If you keep doing things without any supervision for 40 years, the thing itself will become corrupt, right? Because it's rot. It's just the way humans are and so forth. You take shortcuts and you got to, rob Peter to pay Paul this time. So we'll kind of slide it over this time. And, before long, your principles have been thoroughly abandoned, and, you didn't really realize it. Right. So, I mean, we're coming back, and things are coming back, and it'll be good. But, this had to happen. It had to happen in some way. And, these guys are making it happen. They are succeeding at identifying a whole lot of waste.
Yeah. I mean, even if you buy the Social Security explanation about the COBOL program and how they don't record the death dates or birth dates or whatever it was, so that's why you have 350-year-old people in their database. It's like, what organization has a 350-year-old person in their database still, right? I mean, right. I spent my entire career working for a nonprofit. You've been affiliated with nonprofits too. It's like, when people die, you X them out. You basically will delete them, from your database, because they're not going to donate anymore unless their estate is donating. Why right. Why would you have them in there? Right. So it's a goofy.
That's the thing. That's what I'm saying. Is no one's cleaned it up. No one has just done basic cleanup. And so now, and they're all like, oh, it's your COBOL. You don't understand your COBOL. Well, COBOL's a pretty basic language. So I think these guys that are doing this absolutely understand COBOL. And yes, you have default settings, but you have, much more money. You have 40 million people getting Social Security more than the eligible population, right? So it's 40 million of them shouldn't be getting it anyway, under any circumstances. So you have massive fraud going on here, massive billions, trillions of dollars of fraud. And, oh, no, they need to do it differently. It's like, no, we don't. We need to just do it.
Yeah, no, I mean, I'm sorry. It's like, but if you're throwing up the reasoning that it's, this is the way this program runs. It's an old program, and we just haven't. It's like, no, clean that up, fix that, that and take care of that. It's like, don't use that as part of your defense. It's like, that's kind of, what's been like that for years. Everybody who works on this understands that, and there are no payments going to these people. And it's like, and how do we really know that for sure? I mean, we have your word for it, because you guys have got this program that's left all these people in your database that you claim, that are obviously long dead and gone, but you maintain them in your database. Why? Taxpayers deserve an answer to why this is going on. And Social Security, I think we've also known, just like a lot of other things, we've known that there has been waste and fraud with that people have
abused it and gotten away with it.
But and I remember when my father passed away, I thought, it's like, how efficient will they be? Well, boom, as soon as he passed away, that the next month there was no check, nothing from my mom. So, except for the $255 survivor benefit, which is one of the strangest things. This is written into law, so it can't be unless Congress changes it. If there was one thing I would change for Social Security, it would be that, probably, because it's probably been on the books for decades. Is that when your spouse dies, you get a $255 survivor benefit, and then
one-time check.
One time. That's it. Yeah.
Okay.
And it's like, maybe when it was written, maybe when it was first passed, it was,
that was the right amount.
But if it's been like 30 or 40 years or whenever it was since it passed, it's like, I would actually have no objection to having that being a larger amount. I mean, I don't say it has to be $10,000 or something like that, but 255 is like, you almost don't even want to bother, calling Social Security to go claim it. It's just because they don't even automatically send it. I think you have to call them, and tell them that they will send it to you on top of that. So, they're maintaining, they do a lot of things. My wife will start experiencing Social Security when I think she gets the claim by the end of the year. So that'll be kind of interesting to see how this process goes from that time forward, and all of that, because hopefully she lives, we live long enough to reclaim what we paid into the system, but we might not. That's part of that whole actuarial, the game of, if you live to 97 like my mom, you've definitely collected, a lot more than the system. My father had paid into the system, because he collected some while he was alive, and so we there was a good long period of Social Security coming to them, but then there are other people who don't collect as long. But it's going to be. I don't know. I told you before. We're already on Medicare. So we're creeping towards Social Security. I'm not necessarily going hoorah about this. I get, for example, here's my soapbox for today, part of it at least. So the Center for Medicaid Services, Medicare Services. So they send you these explanation of benefits. And you probably, if you have, anybody who has health insurance normally gets something like that, either physically or electronically, to say from the insurance company, here's what the doctor charged, here's what the health insurance plan paid, here's what you may owe, based on your deductible or whatever, things like this. Well, with the Medicare, at least for us, these statements come quarterly. So I have no idea what's going on basically until like for 3 months. They send me a message like, okay, new claim forms or whatever explanations are available. And I'm looking back and I'm thinking like, okay, so they don't cover as much as my former insurance plan covers. Am I going to get hit by the insurance, by the doctor when next time I go see them? Next time I know I owe them all this money that I wasn't expecting. Whereas when I was visiting them, they were kind of like, their attitude, doctors were like, yeah, you're okay. Medicare's covering you. And then you see this and you're like, well, Medicare didn't cover it all, and they say I may owe this amount of money. It's not really clear where I stand yet with that.
Yeah.
And so and because these are for these are for visits back in from November to January. It's like, okay, thank you for just letting me know now. At least under when I had Blue Cross or Care First, these things would come within weeks of having the treatment or whatever the visits, right? So you kind of knew where the heck you were going with everything. But with Medicare, apparently they like to kind of keep you in the dark a little bit before they send these out. Maybe if I went online, maybe I'd find out online a lot quicker. I don't know. Maybe that's part of the issue. But not everybody goes online to look up all that.
Right, especially that group.
Yeah, I mean that's not the group that normally would just be sitting there going like checking all their medical bills online and doing all that stuff. So yeah, I don't know. So part of so we have this. So I don't know. Yeah, I don't know which plan will wind up getting passed. So obviously Trump is putting some weight behind the House plan, but yeah, they've put it. I don't know how much longer they've got to fix this, but I mean we control the House fairly, and we have the Senate. We have an opportunity to get this thing through reconciliation. So I hope the Republicans, find a commonality in here and get behind it and just let's get it done, and move on.
Yeah, it'd be nice if we could pass a House budget without Democrat votes.
Yes, yeah.
So you don't have to give them nonsense to get them on.
You don't want to owe them anything.
Yeah.
All right. So now we also have the potential of a DOGE dividend. Which is funny, but it's like, no, please,
No, solve the problem. I said the same thing like George Bush and his $400 checks he sent. And just solve the problem. Right? Good $400 doesn't. I mean, it's nice the day it comes, but it doesn't change our lives. And you're mailing everybody the $400 check when we could be like paying down the debt, getting debt back toward the bottom.
Exactly. We have what is it 32 trillion or whatever it is right now?
36 trillion.
Is it 36? So it's over. So it's a huge number. It's like, please. It's like, I know that there are probably some people that would love to get a government check. Okay, that's fine. I understand their mentality, but
and I understand, connecting what they're doing to benefits. Taxpayer. We're saving money that you now get. I get that. But I think like we're trying to solve a bigger problem, and I think most of the people on our side understand that.
Yeah, it's much better when it's much better like what a lot of states have done over throughout the decades or whatever, where when they run up a large surplus, they take part of that surplus and they rebate it back to the taxpayers in that state. Okay, you have a surplus. You can take, if you're financially, fiscally responsible, I don't have any problem taking part of that money and giving it back to the taxpayers.
Yeah,
right?
Surplus is not always the wrong answer, but it is here, I think.
Yeah, but here we don't have a surplus. We don't have a budget surplus, and we have the national debt is huge. So it's like, do not.
And the Democrats are right that those numbers look big, but in the context of Washington spending, they're not really big.
Right.
So like if we want to achieve big numbers, then don't be writing people stupid checks.
Yeah. I mean, there's some shock value with what, this 4.7 trillion in untraceable treasury payments. That's also sloppiness on part of the people who are working there to not code it or
many of those could be completely legit payments. Yeah. The paperwork just wasn't done.
Right. So those are things that, I mean, at least we're aware of that. We got, Scott Bessent, got to clean that up, find out what happened there and make sure that doesn't happen again, that type of a thing like that. So, I think those things are much better. I am trying to sort out all these government, layoffs and firings because it's going, there's various things that are happening, all over the country. People here are being laid off. People here are being laid off.
You see the thing about all the Washington houses that are now for sale? Like the real estate market around here has just gone berserk.
Yeah, I don't know. People said that. I saw there was a meme about that, but I wasn't sure about the accuracy of that necessarily.
Yeah, and anytime administration changes, especially from Democrat to Republican or vice versa, a lot of people move anyway, right?
Yeah,
A lot of
right.
people just like, and it's not, and people think, oh, okay, it's people inside the government, they fire all the former ones and hire all new ones, but it's also like the trade associations and all that. They want, if you're a trade association in DC right now, you don't want far left Democrats running your thing. You're not going to make any headway with the administration, so they will fire those guys and they'll hire Republicans.
Yeah, I just wasn't clear whether or not, by firing the probationary employees and some others, whether or not they really had looked deeply in terms of what the roles are of those people and what the effect of letting them go was going to be in some cases. So I think I can understand Musk and Trump wanting to show costs. We're laying off all these people. We're going to cut the size of government. I'm all for that, but you can't do it willy-nilly either. I mean, you may go a little bit too far one way, and like all of a sudden it's like, oh, wait a minute, we don't have the people to actually run even on a skeletal level some things. You have to kind of do. I mean, we know governments, there's too many people, particularly in middle management. And that's
right. And the approach they're taking, you're going to make some mistakes. You're going to fire some people that you need to hire back, and they're doing that. And that, to me, that's okay. It's like, let's catch ourselves overdoing it from time to time and go back and fix it, as opposed to the last 50 years when we've just let it slide.
Yeah, and right. That's okay with me if they would admit that some of these people that are fired, probably they still need, and to bring them back.
Right. And they're doing that and trying to hire them back. Yeah. There's a few agencies already.
Yeah, so we need to do that. And lastly, I guess before I'll let you close off here too, so saw this new executive order with Trump banning the government benefits to illegals, and so this is something that's long overdue, probably, right?
Okay. No more. You say what? Say that again. I was trying to get
no more government benefits to illegals.
Yeah, I didn't. And people are like, oh, they weren't already getting it. Yeah, they were. They were getting it, and you could get waivers. Like once you had made your contact with asylum people, then that you were eligible for certain benefits, right? And like I know, like the hospitals in border states are decimated by this because you have to treat these people, and you don't get any money for it. So, and it's like we're telling you, you're not going to get any money. You should send them away because you're not going to get any money. Because we don't want to make it easy to do this anymore. We've done that for 40 years, and we've really paid a hard price.
Yeah, I mean, doesn't that kind of also lessen the attractiveness of trying to cross the border?
Exactly, that's the whole point,
right? If they're not going to get benefits, or like, okay, well, what are we going to do? How are we going to make this thing work? So
right,
yeah. So I'm hoping that also will start to stem the flow too, because there's no golden pot, of money here for you, waiting for you once you qualify under the old regulations or whatever. So anyway, all right, we've reached the end of the show thereabouts. Brian, take us out.
So obviously Trump's plan is to get Europe to stand up and be the take up for Ukraine. I want to throw that one in there. MSNBC wants to end President's Day.
Okay, so
there's a lot of they're making these things.
I don't know if you saw that clip. Okay, it came from Libs of TikTok, right? And they had a clip from MSNBC with this presidential historian, and I think part of the problem was that she was wrong about the reason for President's Day. We had Lincoln's birthday and we had Washington's birthday, right? In essence, the President's Day was a way to merge the two into one, right?
Right.
And so she extrapolated that. She put that out to, we've had some bad presidents, and so we probably shouldn't be honoring them. And her target was obviously Trump.
Of course. Let's see. What else was down here? Trump killed the New York City congestion pricing. The funniest thing is the people in New York, we're organizing a protest right now to restore congestion pricing. It's like, good job. Go for that one, buddy. You're sure to go far in this business. Yeah, they're getting off getting on Trump about, went to the Daytona 500, drove the beast around the track, is the pace car, which I thought was great. It's like every little thing now. It's like, it's $5 million to do that. Like wherever he was going to be, it was going to be $5 million. He's still, and they're like their golf tracker. It's like Trump's golfed on 27% of the days he's been president. Biden was on vacation for 42% of his term. So to me, that's absurd. And once it warms up here, Trump won't keep going to Mar-a-Lago to golf. The only reason he's going down there is because it's freezing here, right? Once it's not freezing here, he'll just go to Sterling on Saturday mornings like he usually does.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's one thing after another. And, one interesting thing in the polls is his approval rating has not declined, but his disapproval rating has gone up a little bit because the Democrats are getting madder and madder and madder. But it's because he's doing what he said he would do.
Yep. All right. Thank you for that. I'm sure you're happy that we're getting into spring training.
I sure am. Yeah. Another year of heartbreak ahead.
Yeah, you never know. Yeah, you never know. But I mean, injuries, all kinds of things. They 162 game season. That's a long slog.
That's a long slog.
A lot can happen, but the boys of summer are coming back.
Yeah, it symbolizes warmth.
Yeah, that's right. All right, everybody. Hope you enjoyed our rants and comments and whatever else today. And so please, as always, stay safe and stay well. Remember, we live in the greatest country in the world and do not let anyone tell you otherwise. And as always, God bless America. And we will hopefully see you again next week. I'll have to post exactly what we're doing because I will be traveling and I'm not quite sure exactly where I'll find a station to sit down and do this, but I'm going to make every effort to get this pulled off by Thursday-ish. We'll see. All right. We'll see you then. Have a good one.